The market's still trying to digest the Trump administration's tariff announcements. Here now is JJ Kinahan, Chief Market Strategist at TD Ameritrade. And JJ, should investors be worried in your view?
Should investors be worried? I don't think it's going to be a terrible, oh my God, huge trade wars. Because if you look at the short history of the Trump administration so far, it's been big statements, get everybody riled up, and then the solution itself tends to be a bit more pragmatic. I don't think there's a reason to believe that this is going to be any different. Not quite sure why this is the time to pick that fight, so to speak, except maybe it does fulfill a campaign promise. But overall, I would expect when push comes to shove that this is a much more lean solution than we're seeing right now.
So does it make it more of a stock picker's market in that sense?
Yeah, it does. And what I would say to the average retail person is you don't have to take a stand here. You know, and what I mean by that is there are a lot of companies that may be affected directly. Certainly we would expect the steel makers, the automakers, the soda and beer makers to be affected by this. At least a lot of companies that aren't, maybe some of the chip makers, but there's a lot of companies that aren't as directly affected by this. So go out and trade those companies if you feel that there's a risk here. You got to remember, and I think it's always interesting that a lot of times people will run to the fire and then surprised they get burned. What I mean by that is when companies are in takeovers, when companies have lawsuits, when companies have things like this, if you're going in, it's an extra level of risk than you normally see in a stock. If you're willing to accept that risk, that's great. But you don't have to run into the fire. There are plenty of other buildings that aren't on fire to run into.
Are these trade war worries the reason we need to retest the lows we saw in February, which we are on our way towards doing?
We are on our ways towards doing it, and a natural cycle as you go back, you know, that my chartist friends will always tell me you need to go fill the gaps. But with that all being said, I don't know if we're going to go straight down there. We're in a time now where volatility has returned to more normalized levels, closer to the 20 level consistently than we've seen in a long time. So we're going to trade like a normal market does. I think we all got a little spoiled in 2017. You buy the dip and of course we go up. Now we're starting to trade like a normal market should trade. So, you know, the other thing is we're seeing the 10-year yield in a more, a tighter range, at least for the last week and a half or so. And it didn't go up and test at 3%, and that surprised a lot of us also.
So with the S&P 500 now below 2,700, what sectors seem attractive for you?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I've been a fan of the chip makers all year. They might get caught up on a little bit of the tariff talk, so to speak, so it might be a little more difficult for them going forward. But after this sort of settles down, I'm still a big believer in the opportunity there throughout the rest of the year, just because of everything going on in that space with gaming leading the way, AI, and the possibility of the cryptocurrency market picking up for them. Technology overall, I think it's hard not to like. And again, financials, I still continue to like, because they not only do they have the tailwind of interest rates, and so they can get some juice on their spreads actually for the first time in a long time. But business is picking up in Europe, business is picking up in Asia. So with that, they have the opportunity, maybe not as much because people are afraid of the individual consumer for housing, but they certainly have a big opportunity with a lot of companies who are putting up new buildings, et cetera.
All right, JJ Kinahan from TD Ameritrade, always great to see you.
Thank you for having me, Scott. Always great to be here.